And if you will, join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, I'd appreciate. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good job, Ruth.
Thank you. The abuse I take and enjoy every minute of it. We're going to go to Celebrating Success, if you would, please.
Can I have Rick Eccles and Dave Murphy, please?
Good evening, everyone. As you all probably know, we have a Celebrating Success program. It was originally designed for employees. And is it on? Good evening, everyone. As many of you know, we have a Celebrating Success program. It was originally designed for our employees. But tonight we felt like it was time to expand it a little bit to include some of our very important volunteers. And kicking it off tonight is Dave Murphy, who's been a member of the Tanyard Creek Volunteers for just a short period of time. Dave is a non-paid member of the Tanyard Creek Volunteers. He routinely goes the extra mile in support of the trail system. On the morning of 6/9 of this year, Dave noticed graffiti painted on the storeroom door between the two bathrooms. He sent pictures to the group leader, Randy Ham, who's also here tonight. And before Randy could respond, Dave sent another picture showing the freshly painted doors. The job was complete. This is a very busy location, and his quick thinking minimized the number of people that saw this. And it was his quick thinking that we want to reward. And tonight we give him a Celebrating Success award. Thank you.
Doug, can I have Jessica Anson and Madison Summit?
Did you get all that suntan lotion wiped off? I saw. Jessica was hard at work today on the stand. This is a cool story because a touching story. A grandmother was walking her 2-year-old granddaughter next to the main pool area when she stopped to talk with someone. It appears she let go of the child's hand, who went directly into the pool and under the water without the grandmother noticing. She probably was not underwater for more than a couple of seconds before her grandmother pulled her out. She took the child to the concession area where Jessica and Madison were on duty. The grandmother asked if the child seemed okay. Jessica said the child had a bluish color around the mouth and was lethargic but conscious. Jessica took the child and administered some blows to her back while Madison contacted the EMS to respond. The child became more responsive, and when EMS arrived within about 8 minutes, she was transported to ER to make sure there was no water in her lungs. A big thank you to Jessica and Madison for your quick thinking and immediate response in a situation that could have easily turned into a tragedy. We need to recognize these ladies for that. Good job, Madison and Jessica.
You're welcome. Yeah. Is Tommy here? Tommy Lee? I didn't think so. He's chickened down on me. So here is Scott Garrison.
Scott Garrison and Mike Johnson, are they here? We are. All right, please come on up, guys. These two were nominated by Tommy, and he's probably down in the restaurant attending to other business, but we wanted to recognize Scott and Mike. On June 5th, there was a large outdoor event at the Lake Point complex where live entertainment was scheduled to play on the pergola on the back lawn. Fortunately, Mike was there doing another job when it was discovered that there was no power at the pergola. Mike immediately began troubleshooting the issue and enlisted the help of Scott, who came over to help. They eventually discovered it was a dead outlet and then took the time to switch it out with one from the building. This was all done after the end of their day, and they performed without any complaint and were even very accommodating to people around them that thought they were, quote-unquote, helping. This is not the first time that these two gentlemen have gone above and beyond and worked beyond the time clock to set something right, but it is just the most recent. And I've had experiences myself with both of these gentlemen always going above and beyond, so it's time that they be recognized as well. Thank you, Scott. Good job. And there's one more, Jonah. You may know Jonah from the restaurant. He's awesome as well. I'm sad that he couldn't be here tonight, but he's going to be recognized in front of his team. But Jonah Butler is his name. Jonah exhibited excellent customer service, and this is from a member nominated by Jen McGriff, looks like. She says, "I came in for lunch the other day. Right away, Jonah greeted me with a smile. When he sat us, he asked on a preference on the table. That really wowed me. What really wowed me is he recognized how busy the server was, so he took the initiative and explained to the server would be over soon, but he would get us started with drinks. He was sweet and made sure we were taken care of." We've had other examples from Jonah as well, going above and beyond, so he'll be recognized for that achievement.
This just shows us an example of what great employees we have, and they do go above and beyond, so it's kind of nice to recognize them as they do it. At this time, are there any additions to the agenda?
Yeah, we have 2 additions to the agenda. The first one, we're going to have it go in just before item number 4. We have Keith Eames here from our golf course maintenance crew, and he's going to talk about the bridge at Birksdale. And then just before item 15, we're going to have Doug talk about, Doug has prepared a memo regarding some lawsuits, and so he'll cover that at that time. So 2 additions, please.
Okay. Any others? If not, let's move into the minutes. Approval of the minutes, May 23rd, the regular board meeting. I'd like to ask for... Okay, second? Discussion. If not, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Okay, June 20th, the work session meeting. I'd like to have a...
So,
Okay, a second? Jerry, thank you. Discussion on that one? If not, all those in favor of the minutes? Okay, got those, Doug? Okay, thank you. Birksdale Bridge and Keith Eames.
You want me to come around here? Yeah, that'd be great, please. That way you can point to on the screen and everything.
Is this on? Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to come before you today to tell you about a little issue we've discovered on the bridge, which was the old number 18 at Birksdale Country Club. We had rains on Sunday, as everyone knows. We had a little bit of flooding. It didn't really get totally out of the river, but it was moving pretty good, a lot of debris. You can see this is a picture of that bridge. After the water had receded, you can see the debris here. When I came to work Monday morning, the water was still up to about here. You couldn't see anything under there. It was all debris. So we didn't get in there to start cleaning this up till Wednesday. And all the debris was packed in there. You still couldn't see anything under there. So I had an operator take a backhoe out here to the middle like we always do, start pulling this stuff out. He pulled probably a 36, 40-inch log away, which allowed the water to go through and flushed a bunch of this small debris out. And when we did that, we saw this, which is the pier that's supposed to be over here supporting the bridge. He called me and said we might have a problem, and I asked him where he was. He said he was off the bridge. So we went over and looked at it. I got with Tom. This was about 10 o'clock Wednesday morning. Came up and talked to Tom. When Tom and I went out and looked at it, we determined that this right here would make this bridge less than safe to be on. And you can kind of see up here too where this expansion joint is, it's likely that it settled a little bit and it popped that top of that concrete out at the top as it would wedge. So we feel like it's moved a little bit. So we immediately got with the golf operations, got everybody warned on the golf course. When they finished, they had to go back up number 2, do not cross the bridge. Matt came out and got barricades on it where you can't cross it, and we determined to close the golf course temporarily for 30 days till we have an opportunity to get an expert in that can take a look at this bridge and determine what our options are as far as whether it's safe, first of all. And go back to that picture there, Tom, because the third one, because that really shows it the best, I think. Yeah, I mean, you can see that pier is supposed to be right here. The bridge has been looked at in the past because there's some other piers under there that were already, look like they've been hit a few times. This pier was good till the last storm. So that is my short version of that. Presently, we're closed. We've contacted an engineer, Crafton and Toll. Crafton and Toll has done all of our bridge work out here since probably prior to 2008. Have numerous reports. They helped us put the new bridge in at Kingswood. They have all the data on all these bridges going forward, so we felt like they would be the most likely person to contact to have the most knowledge of the situation. After this board meeting tonight, given the go-ahead, I will contact them tomorrow, get the process going when they come look at it. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
When we looked at bridges before, it was the same engineering firm that looked at them.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for Keith before he leaves? See how quick that works, Keith? Thank you. We appreciate you coming in. Okay, moving on to advisory groups. Lakes. Do we have somebody here from Lakes? I don't see anybody. We're going to wait till next month. Okay, Gary, Recreation, if you would, please. Thank you, Gary.
How's that? Better? All right, very good. Thank you very much. Gary Griffin with the Recreation Committee. Let me review what we talked about in our last meeting. We had just about everybody there. We had one person shy because they were on vacation, which was Val. Other than that, we had a full house, which was great. A couple of things. From the amenity perspective, at Branchwood, Debbie Sorensen told us that, well, Jessica had gotten married and that disc golf has actually been very, very busy, which is something that we hadn't heard before. Gun range, everything is going well. The fourth trap's up. It's been busy as well. We had a reduction in an event that we had, but it was simply because of the weather that we've had. As it relates to Lake Ann, that looks good. Glendon Park looks good and clean as well. And the RV park and the stores, that looks good as well. Reardon Hall is very busy. Tennis courts 1 and 2 have been resurfaced, and employees are busy with the tennis clinic right now. So it's getting a lot of service here this summer. As it relates to the Loch Lomond Recreation Complex, it looks great. They've cleaned up one dog park and reopened it, and everything looks, there's a lot of activity in the pavilion as well as the baseball diamond. I have another 3 pages here, so I hope you don't mind. Let's see. We also had 2 visitors that have applied for the open position on the Recreational Committee, 2 very qualified people, and by the meeting in July we'll have selected one, and the one who may not be selected would be great for one of our other committees as well. Other than that, we had some staff reports, and the one thing from Joan's perspective is that Fireflies and tailgating will be this Saturday. Any questions?
Special events of the 4th of July? At the pools? Or?
We didn't have a report on what was happening on the 4th of July, but I think there is, at the beach, there's a what's it called?
Sandfest.
Sandfest at the beach?
Yeah, at the beach.
And also the pools
Yeah, I think
events?
so, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Gary. I appreciate it. Jason, golf.
Good evening. Our last golf meeting, we are seeing revenue or rounds and revenue down still. Obviously, pretty much weather related. I know we had course closings with Dogwood and Brittany for a couple weeks for the Trafalgar Fire, but most of it is weather related. The good news is merchandise revenue continues to climb. We're up 14,000 over last year, so the pro shops are pushing merchandise. Good news on Brittany, even with that being closed for a couple weeks, rounds are up over last year slightly. And another good point with that is we're starting to see some of the 9-hole groups move some of their play to Brittany from Bergsdale, but from the other 9-hole courses or other 9-hole events that they had. APT event obviously was recently, and thanks to all the volunteers, it was a huge success. I think the tournament staff of APT is extremely excited coming back to Bella Vista. Two other things real quick, as will be mentioned later in this board meeting, the committee approved the Brittany recommendation to the board, which I know we'll be going over later in this meeting, and we approved Gary Mertz to be a new committee member, which will be voted on also this evening.
Okay.
That's pretty much it. Any questions, comments?
Questions for Jason? Not, thank you. We'll
Thanks.
see you later. Community involvement.
I've got that.
Go ahead, Tia.
Community involvement meeting met. They did not have a quorum, so they did not approve minutes for May or June. They will do that at the July 11th meeting. That will be July 11th. It moved due to July 4th to the 11th. Tailgates and Fireflies is this Saturday. It starts at 6 o'clock. Just to remind everybody and all members, there are tons of activities, posters, movies, food, hot dogs for first come, first serve, as well as 100 Bluebird houses that will be given out first come, first serve. The committee does still need members. Please reach out to anyone you know. There have been a lot of people that have left the committee recently and they don't have a quorum right now, so if you know anyone that would like to volunteer, please have them fill out an application. I believe that is it.
Any questions? Saturday night should be a nice night to go out and check out the Fireflies. And that takes care of the advisories, financial report. Dwayne.
All righty, we're looking at the income statements, May 2019 year-to-date. These are in thousands of dollars, starting with the POA site. The gross profit on POA is less than budgeted, $263,000. Some of that is due to golf, $173,000. Lot valuations, $134,000. The cost of inventory lots, we've seen that before. Past due collections down $82,000. Legal is $51,000 of that, balance in accounting. Food and beverage is better than budget by $46,000 due to the BV Bar and Grill. Cell tower rents, again, $44,000 better than budget. Gain from cell tower equipment sales between agreements. Cell tower also is $1,069,000. That's what we received, and that's the difference from last year. So it's $859,000 positive, and $1,069,000 of that is the cell towers. Food and beverage is better by $110,000 again. BV Bar and Grill opened late March 2018. Rebates better by $53,000. The Carroll rebate we got. Stump dump down by $68,000. No stump dump income this year. Golf is down by $106,000 compared to last year. And past due collections down $119,000. Legal down $80,000. Lot valuations makes up the balance, a negative $135,000. Looking at operating expenses on the POA side against budget, maintenance and repairs are better by $178,000. Salaries and wages are better by $165,000, all positive across divisions. Equipment and tools are better by $71,000, small equipment purchases. GM contingency better by $68,000. Supplies better by $28,000. And professional services, that's the stump dump, a negative $379,000, and that makes up the $201,000 positive, better than budget.
Wedge.
Looking at against prior year comparison, maintenance and repairs are better, are better by $156,000. We had 2018 flood expenses. Equipment and tools are better by 109, small equipment purchases. Employee benefits, which is primary health insurance, better by 59. Gym contingency, 45. Supplies, 24. And professional services, again, that's the stump dump, 379 negative. EBITDA is a negative 62,000 on this statement. If we take out stump dump expense, which is a one-time thing, and a one-time cell tower revenue, looking at that same statement, here's what the numbers would look like. EBITDA would be a positive 274,000, and prior year would be a better than prior year of 195. The stump dump amount and expenses was a 378. That took that out, and also the revenue from the cell towers. Looking at the water utility, same 5 months. Gross profit is down 123. Water usage is down due to our wet spring. And compared to prior year, scrap metal disposal is 17,000. It's a disposal of our old water meters. And water usage is down against prior year, 34,000. Operating expenses are better by 67. Labor is positive by 34. And maintenance repairs positive by 21. System repairs. Prior year comparison, equipment is better by 116. And outside contracts are down by 60 compared to last year due to our water meter cellular pass-through costs on the new meters. EBITDA is a negative 56, 5 months running on the water utility. That concludes my report. Pending any questions?
I have one. I noticed that you called out Bella Vista Bar and Grill. Is there a way we can pull out Lake Point next month as well, just to compare?
I pulled out the positive. It's up to Tom and the board what you want me to do. I'll be happy.
Okay.
It can be talked about the GM meeting, and we'll go from there to decide what to present.
Weren't those numbers, though, relative to all
Food and beverage.
Yes.
So it wasn't just BVs
No.
that accounted for?
Right, but BV's was the higher.
Yeah.
Yeah. I pulled out the higher
I'd like
ones.
to compliment almost all of the divisions in looking at their particular expenses. Almost all of them were very, very frugal through May. And I don't have my speaker on, but anyway, I'd like to compliment almost all of the divisions for expense control thus far in the year in a year that is extremely tight for the POA because of the fire expense that is imploding with us. So
Yes.
congratulations to most of the departments.
Here, there.
Good job. Any other questions for Dwayne? If not, we'll move on to open forum. Last month's open forum comments, there were none. This time, open forum, I want to remind people that you have a 3-minute limit, and I have a sign up here. David Barfield, you're up first.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to start by thanking the new members to the board for your willingness to contribute to your community. I think you'll find that this is sometimes a thankless job, but trust me, the pay and benefits make it all worthwhile. Right, Lou?
That's correct.
Well, by now, you've probably had a new director orientation, and you've received a binder that has all the governing documents, just like the one I received when I was on the board. You probably also got some discussion from staff about how to apply those governing documents and conduct business. At my orientation, Attorney Chastity Clark, who is Doug's predecessor, spent a good deal of time on 3 cases, 3 court orders in the legal section of that binder, one of which concerned Water Department funds, and I'd like to talk a little bit about that tonight. This 1990 case concerned centered on a $5 water availability fee that the POA implemented. But the issue was not the $5 fee per se, it was how the POA wanted to use that fee. The POA argued that Article 8, Section 3D, which was a general authorization to collect assessment and fees, superseded and expanded Article 6, Section 1, which authorized fees and assessments for water system maintenance. And thus, that allowed the POA to use water department funds for, quote, any and all common property amenities. The court disagreed, citing, quote, basic contract law rules stating that a general provision cannot take precedent over a specific provision. To do so would make the specific provision moot and, quote, simply excess verbiage. The court added that the POA was free to use any generally accepted accounting procedures to create separate line item entries for water department and POA funds. The funds need not be separate bank accounts, but the accounting process must be segregated for purposes of meeting the cost of the water system maintenance. That's a very significant ruling because that's what established the separation between the water utility and the POA and how we manage those funds. It became a color of money issue. We may be one corporation and have one checking account, but the water department money in that checking account is a different color. Okay. The accounting process that we use today was not created, contrary to what you may have read in the paper, was not created to make budgeting and estimating easier for Dwayne and his merry men. The court ordered us to do it.
15 seconds.
Okay, I'll move on. I know it's frustrating in light of a membership that continually refuses to grant us an assessment increase, which is much needed. But in hindsight, I can see the benefit of that for two reasons. One, it protects each entity from each other. It means you can't bankrupt the water department because of reckless spending or malfeasance on the other side of the ledger. So I'm just going to read real quickly.
David, I'm going to have to
ruling.
cut you off. It's past 3 minutes.
Can I just read? It's just 2 sentences.
Okay.
Anybody want to hear it? Okay. It is ordered and ruled that any funds collected pursuant to Article 6, Section 1 must be segregated from other revenue and by an established accounting procedure as may be adopted by the POA and used for the purpose stated, being to meet the cost of the water system only. So don't go after the water system funds unless you absolutely have to, and if you have to, make it clear that you're borrowing the funds, not just cavalier and casually reallocating funds. You can't do that. Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Do you respond to that, or-
Isn't that what we do now?
Okay.
Well, I don't, may I answer her question? I don't know that we've ever borrowed money. It didn't happen while I was on the board. I'm pretty certain that it's never been challenged or litigated as to whether or not you can borrow. The court order doesn't address borrowing funds, and neither do our governing documents. So I would assume that unless someone wants to challenge what the word only means, that you can borrow it.
Thank you.
But you need to have a plan for paying it back with a specific date.
Okay, thanks.
Susan Nuttall.
Hi, my name is Susan Nuttall, 40 Pimlico Drive, and today I'm going to talk to you from my role as the president of the Nine-Hole Women's Golf Association. Okay, I do other things too, but in really regards to the Burksdale Bridge. So I was out there this morning looking at it. This is a scary situation, and the bridge is completely unsafe, and nobody should ever be on it. And I just wanted to take a moment to, we usually have about 60 people play golf every Monday at Burksdale. And we know that changing those schedules in the middle of the season, especially on the busiest day of the week, is never an easy process. And I just wanted to express my appreciation really for the rapidity, the quickness that the golf office took to get our group rescheduled for next week, already been done. And even more than that, the steps that are being taken by the staff at the course that we're going to Brittany, but I'm sure the same thing is happening at every other course, where the golf operations people are making sure that there are enough people to handle the carts. Getting 60 people on a surprise is not a good experience, okay? So they've already asked for carts. I know that the superintendent is taking a look to get, to find good places for the gold tees, for the gold players, the play it up, so that we can keep, we have a fairly elderly group in some of our flights, and so they need to be in front of some of these ditches at Brittany. They've already taken care of that. They're changing their mowing schedule a bit, because used to be Brittany was sort of at the end of the, it didn't matter when they mowed because there was nobody there. So just all of these small proactive steps that the staff is taking, really without being told, and I'm sure that's happening at all the golf courses, and I really wanted to extend my appreciation to their work.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Liz Teal.
Hi, I'm Liz Teal, 95 Mayfair Drive. I'd like to welcome all the new board members to the board, and I'd like to thank you all for volunteering to serve on the board without compensation. And special thanks are owed to Tom Judson for taking the lead in putting out the stump dump fire in a timely manner. And the Bella Vista POA hosts many golf and recreation events. These events are well managed and benefit our community. Of course, they wouldn't run as smoothly without the large number of enthusiastic volunteers. We are fortunate to live in a community that values volunteerism. I appreciate your time and dedication to the POA, and have a great 4th of July and enjoy your summer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I also appreciate all the volunteers. Charlie Teal.
You folks get a twofer tonight from
Okay.
the Teals. Jason mentioned the APT tournament. I'm the president of the Bella Vista Foundation. We're the charity partner for the Cooper Communities Northwest Arkansas Charity Classic that took place at Bella Vista Country Club the week of June 10th. This was the third year of the tournament. First 2 years were at the Highlands Golf Course. This year we moved everything to Country Club. We had 127 APT professionals and 3 amateurs in the field. They came from 21 states and from 6 foreign countries. We had golfers from Finland, Canada, El Salvador, Australia, Panama, and South Africa. There were 52 APT professionals and 1 amateur who made the cut for the final 2 rounds on Saturday and Sunday, sharing a purse of more than $120,000. James Nitties of Newcastle, Australia, won the tournament with a score of 267, 21 under par, and claimed the $20,000 first prize. The Bella Vista Country Club course record was set on Friday by APT Pro Blake Pugh with a 9-under round of 63. The Pro-Am party and silent auction on Monday, June 10th, had 181 guests. There were more than 75 items and more than 100 bottles of wine donated for the silent auction and live auction, which generated proceeds of $12,400. On Tuesday, June 11th, we had 47 3-person Pro-Am tournament teams paired with APT professionals, and as other people have mentioned, the number of volunteers who helped with the tournament increased this year to 201 individuals. Pretty amazing. Each of the 5 designated charities, Bella Vista Sunrise Rotary Club, Boys and Girls Club of Benton County, Bella Vista Animal Shelter, Bella Vista Courtesy Van, and Village House, contributed items for the silent auction and recruited Pro-Am tournament teams. Those charities will collectively receive $4,615 for those efforts. The designated charities will also receive a distribution of tournament net proceeds of $30,000, $6,000 each. The foundation is retaining a reserve of some of the net proceeds for future events. So a very successful tournament. There are a number of people on the board that either participated or helped out, and thank you very much. The APT folks are really happy coming to Bella Vista.
We're glad to have them.
And thank you, Charlie, for facilitating that
It's a
very
job well
successful
done.
event.
That's what I have for open forum this evening. Okay, let's move on. Yes.
Is it an open forum now?
Go ahead.
My name is Roger Scholes. I've been here for a long time, but I'd like to ask one question about the Art Bowl land. When we bought that land, the golfers put $1.50 each for 3 years to pay for that land with the idea that that money would be used for golf. Is that still the situation?
What was decided that what million was used at golf to improve golf in the last 4 years? So they probably have at least that much in return.
The money we're getting from Arkmo will be used for golf then, is that correct?
No, I said we've already used 5.1 million. Go ahead, Tom.
So the dollar increase, we have found no proof that there was a commitment made that those funds. So we have found no proof of that. There was $1.2 million collected by that additional dollar. The greens modification at the country club in 2010 cost $600,000. So that would theoretically, if that commitment had been made, and I'm not saying it had been, that would lower that dollar amount down to $600,000. Now between 2012 and 2018, we've put over $5 million in capital improvements into the golf courses, and it's all been in the golf courses. It hasn't. I'm not including like this building or anything like that. So what Ruth was saying is that effectively those funds have already been paid, and here's the next step, the next part of that. The reality is we need 100% of those funds for paying for the fighting of the fire.
Then to me that says, no, we're not using that for golf.
We've already used that because we spent $5 million.
That money wasn't available then.
We've spent $5 million on golf improvement between 12 and 18.
Anybody else?
Good afternoon. My name is Basha Berner, and I live in Bella Vista 12 years on 16 Sutherland Lane, about maybe 0.2 miles from the fire. We were almost prisoner to our house from almost a year, and thank you very much for doing it now, and we are very happy. But there is one little problem. I got this paper about the lawsuit and big lawyers, big insurance. We are little people. We are on strict budget, on retirement, and we have a problem with we did the power washing of the house just before this fire started. Now the house look horrible. It's like slimy black. We have some pictures. I would like to ask you, who would reimburse us for it? It is maybe not much, but for us it's a lot of effort. Is any possibility that we can apply for some reimbursement for such a thing?
Yeah, as you mentioned, their insurance companies are involved, and that would be the next step for people who have been impacted by the fire would be to make an insurance claim with your homeowner's insurance, and then they would in turn seek reimbursement from those who are responsible. Unfortunately, that hasn't been determined yet, who's going to be responsible and who's going to ultimately pay for it, so it's going to take some time. So I would recommend an insurance claim through your own insurance, who will then seek reimbursement from those parties who are responsible.
I mean, my insurance, or I have to have some lawyer? If I have a lawyer, it is not worthwhile because he probably will take much more than it's really worth. So, you know, it's really very difficult situation for us.
Yeah, I understand it.
So
it's impacted.
This is no answer I will get today.
Yeah, I don't have a good answer for you, but that's the best I have at this point.
And besides, the other thing is I'm an avid swimmer. I go to Brittany Lake, and for 3 years I'm asking for doing something about the road. The road looks horrible around the roundabout of the dam, and it's very dangerous situation for the car and go there.
Which lake is that?
Brittany Lake.
Brittany Lake, okay.
Lake. Yeah, last year there was some docks damage, and I asked the people, rangers coming, and they were very nice, they repaired it. That's true. but the big job is not done for 3 years, and I didn't even buy the card, the picture ID for the $38 because I said if I have to pay so much for this awful situation is there, I don't know if it's right.
Okay. I won't speak for Tom, but we'll look into that. Brittany.
I have it down. I'll speak with
Probably
Rick.
because of 3 years it's not done, and I ask every year. I ask for it. I called. Now that you people have so much expenses for the fire, I think that probably wouldn't be done anyway. But please take account of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say that I'm happy to see the new faces here, and I appreciate y'all's time. I know I'm not always up on everything. Could somebody explain to me the difference between having a membership card that they send me every year and the benefit of having a picture, a photo membership card that I'm paying, $35 for? I've had a lot of people PM me that they don't really understand. So if we could just maybe say exactly what that is, then maybe the people watching will better understand. Because I don't know what to tell them. I don't really understand it either.
Well, I encourage you to look at this fee schedule, and you'll see that by having the photo ID card, you get discounted rates on pretty much all of our user fees. Also, if you go to the restaurant, you get a 10% discount by having that card.
Okay, so the $35 card only helps if we're using facilities.
Correct.
Okay.
If you don't use any of the facilities, then it is probably not in your best interest to get the photo ID card.
Okay. Because I don't have the fee schedule in front of me, I can look it up. Say I want to use the pool. What's the difference between on the fee schedule for if I have a photo ID versus if I don't?
I don't have the fee schedule in front of me, but what I would encourage you to do,
Ruth does.
I'd encourage you to look at your fee
Steve.
schedule, and you see that the more you use the amenities, the more the benefit you receive in getting that photo ID card. And at some point, you may decide that it is in your best interest to get that photo ID card. If you don't use the amenities that much, it may not be in your best interest and to just use the card that you get in the mail.
Okay, so it's not going to be like a future requirement. That's what the people are saying. I mean, rumors, somebody says something, it just goes on. So what people are saying is they're starting that now, and they're eventually going to require everybody to purchase a photo ID card. So you're saying that is not the case?
That is not the case, and
Okay.
we have never contemplated requiring that of everybody.
Okay. Well, I'm just telling you what people ask me,
Because if we, I'm not a lawyer, but if we were to require every resident to purchase a $35 photo ID card, that effectively would be an assessment increase without a vote of the membership, which would be illegal.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of stuff swirls around out there, so when I get it, I just want to come forward and clear it up so that
No problem at all.
it can be cleared
But
up.
you're going to see the benefit in the user fees, and the more you use the amenities, which we encourage our residents to do, the more the benefit you receive.
Okay.
And if you do any in the restaurants, it's $10 or 10% off each time you use it.
Okay, but it's 5% off with our regular card, correct?
Yes,
that is correct.
Okay.
Joy, you might want to encourage those people who are asking you these questions to come to one of these meetings. and
Oh, I
ask the
do.
board directly.
I say, why don't you come to the meetings? They don't want to get up here and speak, so they don't. And I have a quick question. Have we ever had a golf cart parade here for the 4th of July? A golf cart parade.
I have no knowledge of that.
There are golf carts that are in the parade, the 4th of July parade,
Yeah. That's a good idea.
but it's not
Okay.
a POA parade, golf cart parade.
Okay.
But
It
there
was a fun thing that
We have that in the
I went
past.
to a community a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
that
Mardi Gras, we had
one,
them. Mardi Gras,
and-
we had them.
Okay, and they paid like $25 to put their cart in the golf cart parade, and then they decorate it, and they gave away little trophies for the best decorated.
Them paying money to do it.
Well, I mean, it was just a fun thing, and it was a fundraiser for whatever. So I just thought I'd ask. It was fun to watch.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think that would be a great thing to bring to the community involvement meeting.
There you go. I just wanted to.
Okay. Now that's it for open forum. Okay, let's move on to the budget calendar.
We have the budget calendar in the packet, but we've handed out a walk-in memo with updates that were made at the work session. And this budget calendar is fairly similar to previous year calendars. The big notice, I think, is to our committees, our JAG committees, that we're going to ask them to start working on their recommendations July 1st and to have those recommendations in by August 16th. Also, as you move through the process, you'll see that we are planning on having our annual budget presentation to the community on November 11th at 6 p.m. at Reardon Hall, and if all goes well, on November 21st at the regular meeting for the board at 6 p.m. The board will potentially vote to approve the budget at that time.
Okay, the purpose of the calendar is to kind of check points along the way to make sure everybody's doing as they should, so we're ready for the budget in November, in early November, so we can get moving on it. Any questions from the board? Chief?
I think the plan was there was not going to be an assessment increase, or at least it wasn't going to be part of the proposed budget. I think we talked about that a little bit.
We budget as if we would not receive, either not go for an assessment increase or not receive one, but we budget as if we don't get that increase.
Okay. I had a couple of members ask some follow-up, which should have come to mind, but it didn't. So is there any thinking, and I know this is early in the planning process, but is there any initial thoughts about what will happen to the user fees for next year?
I think it's too early. But we have talked briefly about, in many cases, we feel that the user fees are probably at the top end. We even have a golf study that indicates that. And so I think it's a little bit premature to have that conversation at this time.
Yeah, I think there's a local, are we competitive to the local?
Yeah, we'll do
golf.
We do a competitive market analysis, so we can see how we stack up against other courses, other recreation facilities, other restaurants, and so forth, so we can see how we compare.
The rental boats may be a little lower than the competition, something to consider. And again, this is probably just premature, but since it's come up, it's just maybe something to think about. Is there some idea that, we talked about the pool, the dollar difference, and then the public comes in and a dollar difference. Is there any initial thinking that maybe those spreads will change somehow?
Well, I think it's too early at this point. It's definitely, the board will have the opportunity to comment on the recommendations of the fee schedule. I think you're a little bit early, but I think that it's good to have these types of conversations on the matter. Simply because the management team brings recommendations to the board does not necessarily mean that the board will agree or approve those recommendations. I think it's a little bit early.
Okay. like I said, those were some member questions and thought I'd follow up on them.
Sure, absolutely.
Other questions? Okay, let's move on to Joint Advisory Committee report.
On item 10, and we have another walk-in memo on that, that we had
Tom, did you want them to vote on the calendar for the board?
No reason to vote.
Okay.
I don't, and this is a good question of whether we need to vote on this or not. This is just, it's not a requirement. The only, the policy 7.03, I think it is, 7.023, one of the, is fairly limited in its guidance. The main stipulation is that the budget must be shared with the board prior to November. This is just to, as Ruth indicated, to give us checkpoints so everybody is on the same page, so the board understands all the steps that management takes in the preparation of the budget. But a vote is really not necessary unless the board feels compelled to do so.
This is largely expanded from the last probably 3 or 4 years. It has been this way. Because before you got here, it was kind of a lump sum. At the end, you got the budget and you voted on it, yes or no.
Yeah, and the major change we've made about 2-3 years ago was to expedite the approval into November versus December, because it put a huge scramble in December for our property owners and for our member services department. And that way they can prepare and they'll have all of December, and all of the property owners will know what the rates for the next year will be.
And there was some email conversation. The policy 7.03 sets the minimum standard, and I would rather exceed the minimum and provide the board with more information so they have a general idea of what's going on, as opposed to being surprised and on the first just being handed the budget. I'd rather have the board be knowledgeable well in advance.
A lot of this with the budget, as we work through it, Steve, it'll be explained as we go through it, and you'll see. It's a process to get that budget up and running, and Tom does a good job of keeping us informed of what's going on and where they're at. So.
Right. We're just giving guidelines, and there's guidelines in that policy.
That's
so
what we do
that's
as
what
directors.
We're doing along the lines.
Yeah, that's what we do.
I'm agreeing.
Yeah. That's what we do.
Okay.
Okay, moving on.
Next item on the agenda is the recommendations from the golf committee regarding Brittany Golf Course, and you have another memo that was walked in with modifications that were made at the work session. It is contemplated, if the board agrees, that two measures would be taken, 2 votes would be taken. The first of whether to keep Brittany open, and the second regarding creating a Brittany subcommittee that would be in place to track and make sure that the ideas that were generated by the community and by the golf committee are followed through and not forgotten, because we wouldn't want it to be forgotten and then we relook at the progress of the golf course a year from now and realize that it's no better than before. So this subcommittee would shepherd through those ideas, because many of these ideas came from the residents that came to the meeting, and they're good quality ideas. We just want to make sure that there's good follow through on that.
First off, we want to thank the committee, the JAC and their entire committee, and also the community for coming forth and putting their input in regarding Brittany, and some of the suggestions and ideas, as it was said, are indicated tonight. So I would like to have a motion on the table to accept their JAC's recommendation, and then we can visit about it. A second?
Second.
Okay, discussion?
Is this a vote on whether to keep
Whether
Brittany
to,
open?
yes. The first one is to keep Brittany open. I'm going to simply say, obviously the people spoke for themselves, that they definitely wanted it kept open and brought very good, valid answers and reasons why, etc. The golf committee did a tremendous job in bringing it together and putting it out there for the public, and we highly appreciate that, Jason, and your whole entire group. So
Yeah, I was just going to say, job well done, and also to the membership for getting out and discussing it. I know there was a couple of 300 maybe, petitions, and then, so, you know, it took a village to basically come together, and I think with this unfortunate incident with Burksdale, it may have been the right decision all along, and it got shepherded through. So,
and I might point out, based on the based on the golf committee report through May, the rounds were at Brittany were 1318, and then last year they were 1278 through May, but 2 years ago they were double that, 2672, and I realize weather has been a factor all of this spring. So.
And we were down 2 weeks close because of the fire. Other discussion on the first motion? If not, let's take a vote on the motion as to accept the recommendation to keep Brittany open at this time.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded.
Sorry.
Do we have a proxy? Okay, I
David
forgot to
Welcher.
say that at the beginning.
I'm sorry, yeah.
I forgot to say that at the
I'm
beginning.
a proxy for David Welcher,
Okay.
so double vote.
Okay. Okay, now we have another item on the agenda for a motion to please for a subcommittee to be formed through the golf committee to keep tabs and kind of shepherd this whole idea through and some of the recommendations to see what works and doesn't work. Can I have a motion for that? Mary? A second? Jerry? Discussion.
It was also contemplated during the work session that this subcommittee would report back on a quarterly basis, and we would include this information in the golf newsletter so the community is aware of what's going on and how and the amount of play that the golf course is receiving.
And if you look at the recommendations, many of them are going to take some time to implement. It isn't something you can start tomorrow and start evaluating it at the end of the week. It's going to take some time to do. And so that's what we needed to give them time to put things into effect before we started counting numbers to see if it worked or not. So that was one of the issues that we need to be aware of as we go. Mary?
I like this approach particularly because it makes for an effort on both sides, the POA board and the membership. We've all got to step up in order to make this work.
Okay. Other?
Yes.
Go ahead, Stu.
Where it just says at the end of the golf season, do we need to put, was that 2022?
Actually, that was one question that I had for you in the email that was going back and forth. On the last sentence, additionally, the closure of Brittany will be reevaluated October 2021. My notes, I had 2020, so I was not sure which was, but you had in your email 2021, so I was not sure.
I thought I had heard was like 2 years.
2 years. 2 years. But on a quarterly update.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we had the right date.
Ruth, on this, reporting back to the membership how they're doing, you know, with using Brittany, is it a possibility that in the golf newsletter once a month we just report the rounds for the month? Because we get it every month. I mean, is it something that we can just go ahead and put in the newsletter?
We can do it monthly, but I think it's more impactful on a quarterly basis. And as Ruth just indicated, some of these efforts take time.
Oh yeah.
And I think that if we can do it, management can do it either way. My recommendation is quarterly because then it becomes more impactful.
I would have to hope that in the next 30 days, that people with Burksdale being closed, that some of those rounds move to Brittany.
Well,
so I think that that's a false
Yeah.
sense of added rounds at this particular time. So I think if you go on a quarterly basis, you would have a better idea as to the number of rounds actual increase.
Doesn't Mother Nature always mess us up?
It appears to.
I would, I still, I believe, that we need to try these ideas, and it does take time. The biggest impact, I believe, will be that the golfers themselves decide that they are going to go play Brittany. If they decide to do it, they're not waiting for somebody else to respond to these marketing and whatnot. The golfers we have need to use it or lose it. And that's why I was monthly, but quarterly is fine too. It's just the golfers need to understand that they're the ones responsible.
If we're going to add rounds, that's who's going to have to do it. Anyone else for discussion?
I say, David, I actually agree with you. I think monthly is something that the members need to see because they are the ones that came out and spoke very adamantly about keeping it. So to see monthly, if their rounds are not going up, that's because they're not playing. So I do think that's a great idea.
Monthly would be shown in the golf week or the golf monthly JC.
Right.
They have Brittany broken out, so people could see that already. Whereas if we want to compare it to last year, et cetera, quarterly would be, I think, more powerful because they already show the monthly change from month to month.
In the
JAC. No, in the JAC and in the minutes, et cetera.
And monthly could have a negative impact. If people don't see any activity and don't see any increase in rounds.
So you're really getting it both ways. You're getting it monthly of the rounds change and then an update quarterly whether the events that happened or put into effect are working or not.
And
So it's a
monthly
dual.
numbers can be impacted both positively and negatively by weather, where over a quarter, it washes it out a little bit, and you have less of an impact on weather as a result of weather, other than most recently where the weather has been bad for an extended period.
We're already right now seeing leagues moving over to Brittany for periods. And I think that should be included in those letters too.
I assume internally the ideas that come out of here and get used, that internally staff will basically say, that was a great idea and it worked here, and maybe down the road we can use the same thing on other courses. And
Absolutely. If it's a great idea that translates to the other golf courses, we will absolutely use it at the other golf courses.
Other input? My understanding from this, Jason, and please correct me if I'm wrong again, the JAC will form the committee themselves and select one liaison to be on that committee from the board, but one of their liaisons to the golf committee. Okay, and you will do it yourselves internally. Okay, that's my understanding, and I just wanted to make sure the rest of the board understood that too, that they would be doing the selecting that committee. Other discussion? If not, let's take a vote on that motion that we allow the JAC to go ahead and have a subcommittee and try to increase rounds at Brittany. All those accepting in favor? You too? Okay, thank you very much. Jason, we appreciate everything you've done to help your entire group.
Next up on the agenda, on page 67 of your board packet, the golf committee met on June 5th, and they unanimously nominated Gary Mertz to join their committee.
And we earlier had a resume of Gary, so. I'd like a motion to accept Gary Mertz to the golf committee.
I so move.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Got a very impressive resume. If not, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of Gary Mertz moving to the golf committee? Thank you.
On June 12th, the Lace Committee unanimously nominated Jason Adams to join their committee.
Okay. Need a motion to accept Jason Adams to the Lakes Committee.
So moved.
Second? Second. Discussion. Once again, we were given his resume. Any discussion? If not, I'll call for a vote to accept Jason Adams as the Lakes Committee, JAC. Okay, thank you.
Next up, an update on the Highlands Stump Dump. To give you a little history, that stump dump has been open for 35 years. The POA hired FTN towards the latter portion of last year to determine how to remediate the site. On May 29th, ADEQ accepted the plans, the remediation plans that were put together by FTN. These plans included a geosynthetic clay liner. The budget, which was created, the 2019 budget was created effectively at the same time or just before even the hiring of FTN. So at the time, we had absolutely no idea how much it would cost to remediate the site because the plans had not yet been developed and the plans had not yet been approved by ADEQ. Sorry. We budgeted $100,000 for that effort. The plans that have been approved by ADEQ have a cost attached to them of $326,000. They have also asked or indicated a 20% contingency because it depends upon the footprint of the area that we will need to cover with the geosynthetic clay liner. So it could increase. No additional approval is required by the board. This is an operating expense, but clearly this is significantly over budget, and we wanted to make the board aware that this expense is going to be significantly higher than originally estimated. With regards to cash flow, fortunately we're selling ARCMO for the full appraised value, which is more than the secured loan that we have, and we'll be able to use those additional funds to pay for the excess. Any questions?
Strickland awareness. Any questions? Okay. Update on the fire.
I encourage our residents to continue to go on to our web page to get updates. We are posting the updates on a pretty regular basis. We did drone footage yesterday, and there was an update provided. We plan on doing additional drone footage next week. At this point, it looks like phase 1 will be complete July 2nd. If you watch the drone footage, my voiceover states that we should be done on Sunday. The rain that we had earlier this week slowed us down once again. And so we now anticipate, weather permitting, that all work will be done on July 2nd, and they will demobilize the following day. At that point, we have, according to the administrative order with ADEQ, we have 60 days to submit plans for phase 2. So we are right on target. And that's the update. Any questions?
Any questions? Okay, Doug, we're going to interject here.
All right. Trying to keep the board apprised of the litigation lawsuits that are outstanding, and just wanted to provide an update that this, I mentioned before that this was coming down the road, and so it actually happened earlier this week, these filings, and I've prepared a memo for the board. But the two filings that I talked about was that upon the filing of the Macomber case against the POA, we submitted claims to both of our insurance carriers for the time period that we were covered over that from 2004 through 2016. Both carriers denied coverage. So one of the filings is that we have filed suit, third-party claim against Philadelphia Insurance in the current case. That is against Philadelphia. Kutak Rock has a conflict with Nationwide Insurance, so we've engaged a separate law firm to file a third-party complaint against Nationwide. So both of those were filed earlier this week in the Macomber case. The other update I have on the lawsuit is I'd mentioned before that we were going to file a cross complaint against the other defendants in the case. Those are, as you know, Tom Fredericks, Blue Mountain Storage, Brown's Tree Service, and BTS Equipment. Those are people that we have been led to believe they all had an ownership interest in the property at one time or another, and we've been led to believe that they will be considered potentially responsible parties. So the next step was for us to file suit, a cross-claim against those defendants to try to recover some of the costs that we've expended for fighting the fire. So this week the lawsuit got considerably more complex and difficult to track, but I will be providing updates to the board as things come down the pike on that. So any questions? It's a fast overview.
Any questions?
Could you explain a little bit more on the suit filed against us by Philadelphia Insurance? What is it they're trying to get from that?
The Macomber case was filed in the state court. Philadelphia Insurance has filed a claim against the POA in federal court due to the, we say they owe us insurance coverage. They say that it's excluded under the policy, so they're asking a judge to decide that conflict. So they're hoping by filing in federal court that they'll get a judge to rule in their favor that the policy excluded coverage for that. But that's essentially what the disagreement's about.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And because they do business in other states, it becomes federal?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Other questions? If not, update on the Arkmo land.
So a couple things. The sale of Arkmo land is progressing. We anticipate it will close towards the end of July. The board took a vote to sell Arkmo in May. We received a couple questions regarding how can we sell that land but we can't sell other land, and the reason is because the Arkmo land was never subjected to the declaration. Only Cooper, only the developer has the right to subject land or pull that under the declaration. That was never done. So the POA has the right to sell that land without a vote of the entire membership. It was a vote of the board that authorized it. So that should go through. We're selling the land for the full appraised value, which I'm pleased to say. And any questions?
Any questions? Okay, if there are no other additions. Announcements, Rules and Regulation Committee will meet shortly after this meeting in the area. And they will be discussing the proposed change to Policy 1.12 Bylaws, Article 3, Section 5A to have do with board attendance. The proposed change can be found on the webpage. Fireflies and Tailgating Community Involvement Committee has Saturday, June 29th at 6:30. It says, is it 6:30 or 6?
It is 6:30. I think I'm
6:30.
I'm getting there at 6, so I said 6.
And I'm guessing, Tia, that if people still want to volunteer, they can contact you to volunteer. There are plenty of opportunities.
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll take care of that. GM meeting Thursday, July 11th at 2:30 in the boardroom. It's closed session. The work session is Thursday, July 18th at 9 o'clock in the boardroom, and that's open. The Board of Directors' regular meeting is Thursday, July 25th at 6 o'clock, and for future, August 8th, 2:30 for the GM, August 15th, 9 o'clock for the work session, and August 24th at 6 o'clock for the boardroom. If there's no other for the good of the cause, nothing for the good of the cause. We stand adjourned.